Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Mastuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us. May our study together be fruitful, full of strength and vigor, and profound. May it be revealing to us. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. When we try to inquire about the most profound questions of life, it sometimes makes us struggle because we're working within restricted limitations and concepts. Even if you want to find out what is the latest discoveries in astronomy, it has to be presented to us in small frames with colors that we recognize. And different pictures have to be patched together. And we have a two-dimensional image of it that our imagination feels is 3D. So we are working with many limitations. Of course, our primary limitation is the human body, a kind of machine. And in that machine, something like 30 trillion cells exist. And something like 10 to the power of 24 atoms are there. That is something like 10 billion, 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 and so on. Atoms. It doesn't look like that when we see somebody. So how to make sense of this whole universe is a difficult problem, not only because of our limitations, but also because we don't know how it began and we don't know how it's going to end. It's like going into a movie. We weren't there from the start. We didn't catch the beginning. We don't know necessarily who the actors are, although in inquiry you can find out. And we're not staying to the end. So diving into the middle of something, we have to figure out what's the meaning of this. Some religions postulate a God. So they say, I'm standing here, and they look around, where is God? But in Vedanta, we don't do that. In Vedanta, the ancient people, they stood, no doubt, and they said, I exist. What is that? What am I? What's the nature of the universe? And these profound questions are being asked in modern science today. What is life? Is a subject that many, many scientists have contributed to without any final conclusions. How do you define life to start with? So in the ancient days, people tried to make an inquiry by going to a competent teacher, somebody who they felt knew something, somebody who had some insight. And because we cannot understand the totality, and because the word God has a very limited understanding, it means different things to different people in different languages. And every word has a corresponding concept. So when we catch a word, the concept may be right, it may be wrong. The concept may be on the nose, it may be an inkling or suspicion or suggestion of what is true, or it could be something that is a hangover from our childhood. But in our childhood, we have to grow in all the other dimensions. Physically, we have to grow. Socially, we have to grow. Psychologically, emotionally, all of these ways we have to grow. So this growth, when applied to the deeper things in life, sometimes becomes stunted. And we're left with traditional concepts that were suitable at the age of 4, 5, 6, but not suitable today. And the example I always give is this. Here in Ireland, around about Christmas time, children are told that Santa Claus, Santy, is going to visit. Despite his size, and despite the fact that chimneys may be not working, he'll come down the chimney and stockings are filled and so on and so forth. But by the time the age of 9 is reached for every child, no child believes it. They understand, no, father and mother did it. Now the question arises, did the parents lie? And if they lied, is it damaging to the child? But you see, we don't go from error to truth. We go from truth to higher truth. And so it's not good to say Santa Claus does not exist. It's much better to say, yes, Santa Claus exists, but it's not a person. It's a spirit of giving. It's a generosity of spirit. Now that you're 9, 10 years of age, you're going to understand it better. But at the small level, child level, we'll tell you this story. You want to understand what is spirit of generosity. How will you understand such a thing? So it's not that something is wrong, but other better ideas are on top of it. Let's take, for example, gravity, a very serious subject. Isaac Newton had an idea about gravity that worked. Mathematically worked for the orbits or calculating orbits of moving objects in the heavens. And Einstein had a very different idea. He extrapolated from special relativity to general cases. And there's one rule that we use, that the ancients used also in the Vedanta philosophy, and that is to see that what happens on the tiny microscopic level will happen everywhere. It assumes the law of nature is constant. So if we want to find out what is existence, we don't have to explore to the very darkest, deepest reaches of the observable universe. Bearing in mind that when we find that border where the speed of light has taken us, it may not be the border at all. There may be much more beyond. We have no idea. Instead of doing that, we can take a small sample of the most refined type, namely a human being, and ask, what is the nature of that person? Well, what am I? Who am I? With the assumption that if I come to know it, then I know everything in the universe. I know the whole thing. But how to encapsulate the whole totality? First of all, the word God was not there. God, of course, is an English word derived from the Germanic hud, G-U-D, that also comes from the Sanskrit hutam, one worth offering to, making an offering or sacrifice to. But that would be one limited concept of an ultimate absolute. And so the word that comes in the Upanishads is Brahman, immediately evoking some kind of potentiality that expresses itself kinetically and moves out, as it were, in an infinite way. So that is why this term Brahman is used. But how to understand that? So for convenience sake, for the beginner, we can divide this undivided into parts. It's not that it has parts, but for ease of understanding, we can use those kinds of concepts and understandings. And what will be the use of it? Well, if we are able to see parts of it, we can surely get an inclination of the fullness behind it. And when we get an inclination of that, we can meditate on it. And the closer we get, the more of the parts that are revealed to us, the more of the totality is revealed to us, until ultimately, a true understanding occurs. We stand in the position of pure being, away from becoming. And all the sense of divisiveness and individuality, exploring the cosmos as if from small fragments and parts, instead of looking at the whole thing. So there's a very beautiful story that illustrates this and proposes that this Brahman be viewed in 16 ways, 16 parts, and these 16 parts can be consolidated into 4 approaches, 4 divisions, as it were. And there's a charming and delightful story in the Chandogya Upanishad. I'll paraphrase the story and then we can explore its meaning to see if we can pick up some lessons from it. Well, in the ancient days, we have to understand that most of the education up to the age of 12 was done in the domestic environment. Father and mother were the teachers. And then from the age of 12, certain astute pupils were entered into educational institutions in forest areas that would be delightful to the mind, not crowded. And then they would continue their training from 12 years of age to, say, about 24, 25. This was a period called brahmacharya, that is, chastity. And so the emphasis on this period of life was character building, how to make a good citizen. And today, in today's education, if they followed that pattern, things would be much better off. But today, education is more in line with assembling facts and figures, cramming it into a child's head, with some bare minimum requirement of values. Maybe something like a golden rule may be espoused, directly or indirectly. And it is seen that a child should be behaved well. But the emphasis on character building isn't there. Not necessarily. Not in all cases. Not emphasized. Some educational institutions think along those lines. And so there was a young boy, Satyakama was his name. He had his mother was Jabala, and he voluntarily expressed his wish that he wanted to go to a teacher's house and live there, get some education, and live there as a celibate, understanding not just the A's and B's of something, but understanding the fundamental truth, the truth of this totality. Not just a mere bread-winning education in the language of Sri Ramakrishna. So knowing that, he has to be qualified. Qualified means when he goes to the teacher will ask, what is your lineage? What is your family? He wants to test, are you from a good family? What is your gotra, your heritage? So he asks his mother. I know the teacher will ask this, so what is it? And his mother said, I don't know. Actually, in my youth, I wandered here and there, serving, and my husband went, your father had gone and departed, and I didn't have time to inquire, what is the lineage? So I don't know. But if you go to a teacher, your name is Satyakama. My name is Jabala. You say, my name is Satyakama Jabala. All right. So with that blessing, he goes off, and he finds his teacher, and a distinguished teacher called Gautama. And that's the first question Gautama asks, what is your lineage? And he replies exactly as his mother had told him. Word for word. And the teacher says, you are a Brahmana. That is, you are somebody of the highest standing because only somebody of that quality would be so truthful. You haven't tried to hide anything, you've told it directly. So he gave him the traditional initiation, a ceremony. Somebody gets faggots, that is, fuel for a fire, offers it to the teacher with this kind of internal prayer, please illuminate my mind. Symbolic. So now let's stop there at that story and examine what is the meaning so far. Firstly, the secret is in his name, Satyakama, which means one who desires the truth, Satya. The purity of the truth, I desire that. It's in the name. That's the first thing. Bearing in mind it's a story, and like all good stories, it starts off literally, once upon a time. Once upon a time it goes, Satyakama, Jabala, accosted his mother, Jabala, with, honorable mother, I wish to live in a teacher's house as a celibate. Of what lineage am I? So she replies, she replies what she replies. I went about as a maidservant and so on and so forth. So he, having approached Haridrumata Gautama, I shall live as a celibate life with you, he says. See the boldness. Not may I shall. The worshipful one. Therefore, I have come to you, the venerable one. I've come as a disciple, Bhagavantam, venerable one. And to him he said, again, asked this question, to what lineage do you, the good-looking one, belong? Let's pick up the clue. All along throughout this passage, and the passage is Chandogya Upanishad, it's the fourth section, fourth subsection, and we're dealing currently here with the fourth verse. Good-looking one is first mentioned. Why should he say good-looking one? Because somebody who has purity and earnestness as a quality for discovering the truth, that's a quality, that's a necessary quality, a necessary condition. Not everybody will get teaching. Jesus put it crudely, don't cast the pearl before the swine. So it's a selective process. There's not a huge missionary endeavor to convert thousands of people, no. You take quality people who are genuinely interested, and already the fire is lit. So he has that desire. Then he asks of what family, and he replies, I asked my mother this, and she said, in my youth, when I went about a great deal as a maidservant, I got you. So I don't know what family you are. I am Jabala, my name, and you are Satyakama. Then Tamhovacha, he said to him, none but a Brahmana, none but somebody of the highest status. Brahmana, literally lower Brahman, could thus explain, bring fuel, my dear, I will receive you as a pupil. You have not departed from the truth. So the truthfulness is the most fundamental quality. Let's review. Earnestness, truthfulness. A third thing is implied, faith. Faith that everything will go well, because I'm asserting, I'm here, I'm going to be your disciple. So faith. Now faith has a wide range of meanings. From blind faith, which we reject as pretty much superstition, to the end, the culmination of it, unwavering conviction. And much faith is somewhere in between. So he takes him on board, and then comes the discipline. He says, from these cows that I have, because in those days, ancient days, wealth was measured in cows. Amongst the weak and so on, the weak and the poor ones, he selects 400 cows. And he says to them, take these cows. Now, what has that to do with learning, to do with teaching, to do with spiritual life? Firstly, doing what the teacher says with faith. Secondly, it's a test. You see, there's another test like it, and I think you'll find it in the Gospels. So the owner of a vineyard, he gives certain people a certain quantity of money to hold on to for safekeeping. I think it's 3 people in the story. Anyway, he comes back. If it's not entirely accurate, it doesn't matter. The purport of the story is the main thing. And one person says, I kept your money safe, I buried it. So now I'm uncovering it. Here it is, exactly as you left it. Another person, he had certain expenses, and unfortunately the money was depleted. He didn't do much good. But the third person was the best. He invested it in some way, and instead of giving back the exact same amount of money, he gave back double. That was the one who is kept on. He used his ingenuity. Not only have you entrusted me with this, but I won't do the bare minimum. I'll do the maximum I can and give the maximum return. Anyway, the instruction isn't multiply it. The instruction simply is 400 cows are there. Please take them off into a forest area. Now we know that on his return, ultimately, it mustn't have been so far away, because as he goes off, he himself, Satyakama, resolves, I won't return until these 400 have become 1,000. Now that means if you say approximately 1 calf per cow, and so 600 cows to make up the difference, then it's about 1.5 years he must have stayed away. For 1.5 years, let's say 1.5 to 2 years, he's now doing what? He's doing discipline. It's not that he's sitting in a cave meditating. He's working. He's looking after the cows. He's making sure that they multiply. He's making sure that he leads them to good green pastures, that they're well fed, that they come back in a good fat condition, something that is more of an asset to the teacher. And so this is the next portion in spiritual life. Not only should there be an inner urge automatically arising from within, there should be truthfulness, there should be faith, and there should be austerity. Austerity, not keeping your jaw by your knees, not being negative, not being pessimistic, but being self-disciplined. This is the meaning of brahmacharya. Living a disciplined life, living a life that has meaning and purpose, an active life that is full of purity and truth and goodness and love and harmony, all the higher values, noble truths. Then what will happen from it? What will happen is things will be revealed to you. Living your life as a disciplined student, arising in the morning, doing a little bit of ritual or prayers or something like that, and look at the beautiful environment there in the forest, there in the fields with the cows, no other for company. And we know he wouldn't have gone that far, so could have been a temptation when things get hard to go back to the house of the teacher. How is it that we know he didn't go so far? It's because on modern reckoning, cows can only really walk about 1.5 kilometers per week. Otherwise, they damage their feet, their legs. They walk very, very slowly. And on the fulfillment of 1,000 cows, he starts making his way back. So we know it was probably about 4 or 6 kilometers away. So when the cows had been 1,000, after 1.5, 2 years, whatever it was, the bull speaks. Don't ask me how a bull can speak. It's a story, beginning once upon a time. But the truth of the matter is that everything comes from within you. There's nothing that comes from outside. And so if he feels that the bull is speaking, it means some revelation is taking place in him. And so that's what happens. The bull speaks. Then the bull says, "O Satyakama, yes, so, O good-looking one, we have reached the number 1,000. Lead us to the house of the teacher," says the bull. Now the commentator says, to favor him who had attained perfection through faith and austerity, the good air associated with directions having become pleased, enter into the bull. Bear in mind that we're thinking of things in an elemental way. So air is something that is found everywhere. Both the physical vayu, air, and the subtle component of it is an omnipresent entity. If you ask Here's a vessel, a cup, or a pot. Can you tell me when will the air go inside? The air is already inside. Can you tell me when the air will be outside then? No, the air is already outside, both outside and inside. You can't exclusively put it in, and you can't exclusively shut it out. It's both inside and outside. And the bull now is a symbol. First of all, in Hinduism, we know that a bull is the Vahini, the very vehicle of the Vahina, the vehicle of Shiva, the auspicious one, the one who dissolves our ignorance, that aspect. So the dissolver of ignorance and is also Mahayogi, the one who practices austerity. And so you can see how the bulls breathe. You can see how their nostrils flare, and out comes air. So quite naturally, it seems as if the bull is talking. What is the symbolism of the bull? The bull is saying, I'm going to reveal to you this Brahman, and I'm going to tell you that it is in 4 stages, 4 legs, 4 quarters are there. How can Brahman be divided? Well, it cannot. But for ease of teaching, let's make it simple. Let's see if it can be divided into 4, and each one of those 4, another 4, making 16 parts. So I shall teach you. All right. After all this time, a revelation is coming from inside. The bull is going to teach him. What is the first leg? Now he's saying all along, repeating that, oh, good-looking one. How is a person good-looking? When a person is pure and truthful, it's not physical beauty, but it reflects in that, reflects in the face. You cannot hide your light under a bushel or a bed, and your light will shine through the face, through the eyes, and so on. That's what makes him good-looking. And so, I wish to tell you 1 foot of Brahman. Please tell me, revered seer, says Satyakama. And to him he said, the eastern side. Now you understand it's like the day. The eastern side, you can imagine there in the beautiful countryside, and the sun is rising in the east. Today in the summer, the sun rises pretty early. And although it may not exactly be the east. It was always a puzzle to me since I arrived from Zimbabwe here, how the sun is not exactly rising in the east, more toward the southeast, maybe. Anyhow, so the eastern direction, that is the one aspect. That's 1 foot. Then what is the other foot? The western direction, then the southern direction, then the northern direction. In other words, whatever direction you look is Brahman. What a remarkable statement. Don't wonder, I am standing here, where is God? Look to the east, there you'll find it. Look to the west, you'll find it. In every direction, you'll find it. You see St. Patrick's prayer from the breastplate. Christ within me, Christ above me, below me, left, right, and so on and so forth, on all sides. But did we notice it? Did we notice it in the rising sun? Did we notice it? You see how the sun opens up the whole day. The whole vista gets opened up for us. So it is a kind of revealing thing. Did we see it in all the directions? Did we see it in space itself? Did we see it in the air? And the air is something that we are breathing. And did we feel when the air presses against the pressure of the skin? That is one thing. And that is called Brahman. So we have now 1/4, 1/4 of the total 16 parts. But the lesson is, don't ask, where is God? God is everywhere, but did we notice it? And if we didn't notice it, it's not surprising that we are pessimists. Because if we noticed it, there'd be an internal raise, there'd be an internal rapture about it. And therefore, 60 trillion cells would thrill with it. Does not try to be healthy, no. Try to bring health in as a suction by how you think. Then he says, fire will tell you the next part. So he goes on, but here's the reward. Whatever we meditate on, supposing we meditate on that in all directions, he says, surely this is 1 foot of Brahman consisting of 4 parts and called the manifested. You see, actually, the word is not exactly like that. The word is prakashavan, which really means shining or radiating. But in this context, we have to say manifesting of radiance. Then the next thing he say is, he who having known that in this way, this 1 foot of Brahman consisting of 4 parts, meditates on it as the manifested, becomes renowned in this world. Whatever you meditate on comes to you. So if you think that, oh, Lord, you are a supreme manifester everywhere, then this world is yours. Not only this world, but the next one also, because it goes on to say, and wins the manifested worlds. That is, the worlds of the shining ones. Pragasha, Vataha, Logan, the manifested worlds associated with deities and angels and saints and so on. All right. Then the bull said, fire will tell you 1 foot. And so when the next day dawns, then he drove on the herds of cattle, whatever time and place they gathered together. Don't forget, they're on their way back to the teacher's house. So they gathered together at nightfall, then and there, having stopped the cattle, that is, put them into a compound, rounded them up, settled them for the night. Then he lights a fire. Now you have to get all the fuel for it, and then light the fire. And then sitting behind the fire and near it, in what direction do you think he faces? In the east. Because the east is where the sun rises. Even at night, you'll face in this direction. If you want to sleep peacefully, then make sure that your head faces the east. Or if you want to do it the other way, you can make your feet face the north. Anyhow, this fire he's lighting. Now, what will you notice when you light a fire and it's quiet? There's nothing else around. Maybe there's a few sounds from the cows, but normally they're pretty settled. So there's silence there, a wonderful time to meditate. And the beauty about the fire is hypnotic. You can gaze for hours into the flames of a fire. Fire was a tremendous discovery of man. It changed his diet. It allowed him to go beyond the borders of the sunset. When the sun goes down, the eyes go down too. Not necessarily. Light the fire. And all the great tales and stories happen around the fire. Culture originates around the fire. And it is no error, therefore, that fire is praised in the Vedas as one of the great illuminating factors. Agni, from where we get the English ignite, igneous rocks and so on. So the fire accosted him saying, "O Satyakama, yes, revered sir. O good-looking one," it's repeated, "I wish to tell you of 1 foot of Brahman." Now, it's not that the fire is literally speaking, but he's looking into the fire and he gets this insight. What is he saying? "Please tell me, revered sir," to him he said, "the earth is 1 part. In other words, when you light the fire, what is it illuminating? It's illuminating the ground. And it's also in contrast to the vast blackness of the night. So, earth is 1 foot. And the heavens is another one. That is that region when you look into space, when you look down into space, as I say. If you say, I look up into space, you're putting a geocentric view. If you look up into space is more valid because if you go outside the globe, where's the up, where's the down? You have no understanding of it. It's the same in all directions. Vast, limitless space going on there. All black. And we know that it is space, and we know that it is void. We know that it is empty because if it was full, you would see no blackness. It would all be illuminated light across the sky. And so, three things are there. The earth is there, and the heavens are there, and the interspace is also there. The void is there. So you have three of the second batch. So he goes on to say, the earth is one part, intermediate space is one part, heaven is one part, and then it looks as if it's out of odds. The ocean is a part. So we have to think, what does he mean by ocean? Well, it can be literal. When you look out to the ocean, you can't see where's the border. And when you look out to the sky, you can't see where's the border. Even with the greatest astronomical instrumentations, you can't see where the border is. You look out and it goes on and on and on and on. Hubble telescope looks at 1 square inch of the sky and sees what's called deep field space. So many things going on there. And it's going on and on and on forever. And because we can only find out what is there according to 186,000 miles per second speed of light, then we are limited to 15 billion light years. That's all we can pick up. And we know, we can see, there's something called a redshift that's going on there. That is, things are moving away almost at the speed of light. And we can measure that velocity against distance and make a kind of ratio, which lends us the idea that if we move it backwards, if we put the movie backwards, then we'll find where it all started. That's the current thinking anyway. As you know, I'm not quite agreeing with it, but nevertheless, that's the current thinking. Let it be. Now consider now this. All of this is Brahman, so he says. But it's illustrating all this is limitless. That's the point. The earth, that is the observable universe, is limitless. The heavens are limitless. The interspace is limitless. The ocean is limitless. And if we study the Vedic cosmology, we would understand ocean is not necessarily literally ocean. Ocean indicates there's a oneness. There's a deep, deep thing. And on the top are waves. And the crest of our wave is our universe. That's how the thinking went. So, limitless, that's the idea. So, it says, "O good-looking one of Brahman, this is surely one foot called the limitless, having 4 parts, and he who having known in this way, this 1 foot of Brahman, consisting of 4 parts, meditates on it as the limitless. He becomes limitless in this world." I mentioned, these Upanishads will tell us the principle, and they'll also tell us the practice, and they'll also give us a meditation theme. So here we give a guided meditation every Tuesday. We can literally pick up all of the meditation themes in the Upanishads, and we won't run out of themes. So here are at least several themes. One theme is saying you can meditate on this first leg of Brahman, this first quarter, and even that has 4 aspects to it. And that will be the aspect of what is manifested. You can meditate on the manifested. The inference is the unmanifested also is there. So meditate on that as represented by the 4 quarters and space. Then you can meditate on the limitless. And that study of astronomy helps tremendously. Because, and you've done an astronomy course, I think, some time ago, yeah. So yeah, so the jaw really needs to open wider and wider, wider. The more you hear about the wonderful things. What you call a human body is made principally from supernova exploding. Stardust, literally. Hydrogen being pulled in by gravity and then radiating and making all the other elements. This human body is made from principally oxygen and carbon and nitrogen, and all the other various elements are necessary. So these compounded make the human body. And within that, millions, billions and billions and billions of atoms. So now what is the next thing? So you, having known in this way, this 1 foot of Brahman consisting of 4 parts, meditates on it as the limitless. He becomes limitless in this world. And he who, having known this 1 foot of Brahman consisting of 4 parts, meditates on it as the limitless, he wins what? The limitless, the everlasting worlds. And then Fire said, a swan will tell you the next part. Now we know that a swan is white, generally speaking. There are other colors of swans, but we think of swan as white, and the only white thing that travels, the sun. So when it says swan, it really means the sun. So the swan will tell you of 1 foot. When the next day dawned, he did the same thing. He brings the cattle together, puts them in the pen, settles them from the light, gathers the fuel, lights the fire facing the east, settles the mind. And then in this mood, what will happen? Again, gazing into the fire, a swan comes to visit him. That is his inner vision. The sun comes, that swims across the sky, so to speak. And so what is that? So the swan said, having come flying near, accosted him, Satyakama, he acknowledged, yes, sir, yes, revered. So same formula is repeated. Oh, good-looking one, I wish to tell you of 1 foot of Brahman. This will be the 3rd foot. Please tell me, revered sir. To him he said, fire is 1 part. The fire that you're standing in front of you, that is 1 part. Now what do you think the next one is? The sun itself. In other words, everything that is shining is connected. There's a fire here, but there's a fire in the sky also that is a life giver. That is also Brahman. Fire is Brahman, 1/4 of it, 1/4 of the quarter, and the sun is another quarter. Then the reflected sunlight from that is the moon, is another quarter. And then when you see how the clouds have gathered, and there's an electrical current that moves called lightning, that also is part of it. In other words, everything that shines, everything that is luminous, with these 4 examples, and it is all electrical. The sun only works because the electricity called hydrogen is somehow with atomic tunneling meets another hydrogen atom and makes helium. And that whole process, fusion process, is going on. And it takes a long, long time for that to reach the outer temperature, the cooled off outer temperature even, that the sun radiates and radiates cosmic rays. Some of those cosmic rays come to us as elements too. 118 elements in the chemical table now, periodic table, but 24 or so are synthesized. So there's a connectedness. And so this part of Brahman is surely 1 foot called the effulgent, the shining, having 4 parts. And then he who, having known in this way that 1 foot of Brahman consisting of 4 parts, meditates on it as the effulgent, naturally becomes himself effulgent in this world. And he who, having known in this way this 1 foot of Brahman consisting of 4 parts, meditates on it as the effulgent, he wins the effulgent worlds. Then the swan said, There's another particular bird called mudgu. This mudgu, called a diver bird, is an aquatic bird. It has a capacity to dive in. And because of that, it represents life diving into every part. So the diver bird will speak of one foot. And so the next day, same thing happened. Take the cows in, put them in the pen, make sure they're safe, get the fuel, light the fire, face the east. Diver bird visits. I'll give you another foot of Brahman. All right. So what is that? Please tell me. The vital force, that is energy, the thing that makes you breathe. Having indicated this space here, that space there, the earth, the heavens, the interspace, all of that, let's bring it to home. It's the energy in you. It's what causes the lungs to inflate and deflate, the heart to pump. It is energy. So that is one part. This prana, as it is called, this cosmic energy is there. So that's the one part. And so it allows you to reside. It allows you to have an abode. It makes its abode. And if that leaves, everything else leaves. We call it death. When the last breath leaves, then life is gone. In a contest between all the sense organs, all the shining ones called devas within the body, having a contest, they'll say, what happens if I leave? Nothing. What happens if I leave? Nothing. But when the breath leaves, we have to leave with you. Everything leaves. And so the eye is there, the ear is there, and the mind. The mind is the queen bee of all the senses. Where the mind goes, all the senses go. And where prana goes, everything goes, including the mind. So for that reason, this vital part, the mind is one part. O good-looking one of Brahman, this is surely one foot, named Ayatanavan, that is one possessed of having a dwelling place, an abode. And therefore, if you know it, then what happens? He who having known in this way, this 1 foot of Brahman, consisting of 4 parts, meditates on it as possessed of an abode, he becomes possessed of an abode in this world. That is, you become steady, peaceful. And he who having known thus, this 1 foot of Brahman, consisting of 4 parts, meditates on it as possessed of an abode, wins worlds that are spacious. Again, whatever you meditate on comes to you in this life and beyond. Then he reaches the teacher's house. So we can kind of estimate how, well, it's taken 4 days and he's reached the house. And the teacher addressed him, "Oh, Satyakama." "Yes, revered sir." He says, "Oh, good-looking one, you shine truly like a knower of Brahman." Who taught you this? The face shines with it. Who may it be that instructed you? Well, he answers, it wasn't a who, it wasn't a person. Some ones other than human beings, says Satyakama. But it is you, revered sir, who should instruct me, fulfilling my wish, because I came to you for instruction. And yet, without instructing me, these things have instructed me, and you can add from within, this inspiration coming from within. And so for it has been certainly heard by me from the venerable ones like you, that knowledge acquired from the teacher alone surely becomes the best. To him he imparted this, and so this, and to this nothing remained left out, and it's repeated again, nothing remained left out. He repeats it a number of times so that we fully understand that actually nothing was left out. Now, a small reference. Saint Bernard makes a statement. He says, what I know of the divine sciences and Holy Scripture, I learned in woods and fields. I have had no other masters than the beeches and the oaks, beech trees and the oak trees. So one who knows Brahman has his senses tranquilized, wears a smiling face, is free from anxiety, is of a fulfilled purpose. This says Shankaracharya. He says it in his commentary. Prasanna indriyaha prahasita patanascha nishintaha kruntarto brahmavid bhavati. So what are the further lessons now that we can learn from this story? So we found out about the directions, we found out about the limitless aspect of things. But when we light a lamp or a candle, is that what goes through our mind? Do we really register it as a connected thing? And you can connect it even further. It's just a clue. It's just saying, are you observant enough to see that it is there, Brahman is there, in the fire as the fire, in the sun as the sun. And that is, as it were, a part of it. Now, every day the sun rises, and if you're not running on teenage time, you'll notice it. Because I'm told in the holidays, the teenagers get up 11 o'clock, something like that. I don't know. This I've heard from a number of devotees. So they are truly yogis. What is night for some is day to the others, and vice versa. I don't know. So this is a wonderful thing when you consider also how we are sitting here and the magic, as it were, that was made to bring us here from stardust. The illuminating factors that were necessary to do that. The wonder, the rhythmic aspect of the moon that responds to gravity and allows that aspect of our life that has a certain rhythm, that makes seasons, that draws in the tides. This synergy that the moon has with the earth, imagine, what a wonderful thing. And when we look at all these bodies, electricity doesn't cross our mind, even when we see lightning. Now, in this country, we rarely see it. But in Africa and other places, we'll surely see it. A storm is not a storm until the clouds go the darkest black, and then a crack of thunder along with the lightning, a glorious sound. But in Africa, I have to tell you, many deaths come in the rainy season because lightning strikes. But this flash across the sky, imagine these ancient people. What sense would they have made of a thunderbolt? And the sun is reliable. And the sun and all these luminous factors indicate time. Space is indicated, time is indicated. When you take this earth, do you appreciate? See, this earth was a self-regulating mechanism. And now what's happened is, man has taken it over, and this delicate balance is being challenged. So that in a country like Greenland, where the glaciers are melting at a rapid rate, and it's anticipated it continues, the seas will rise just from that alone, some 7 meters. That would be something like a disaster, but all man-made. So if we understand this divinity in everything, won't we take better care of our environment? If we understand also that this prana is in the body, the eye is there, the ear is there, and this is one aspect of Brahman also, we will not take care of the body. And then there is the mind. We will not make the mind the sitting room of the Lord, called meditation, if we know this fact. So all of this is a clue. Now, Satyakama has come back to the teacher, and he says, yes, I have gotten all these insights into Brahman, but it is only the manifested portion. It is only the portion within the realm of names and forms with the inference of Brahman behind it. But the transcendent Brahman, I don't know it. So you can please tell me what it is. And so the phrase is repeated twice over. It says, nothing was left out, yea, and nothing was left out. Not a thing was left out. See? Ivo vacha atrahana kinchana vijayati, nothing was left out, and nothing was left out. In other words, the rest can only come from the enlightened soul of the teacher. And that enlightened soul now is leading, guiding the person to the actual real experience of the unmanifested aspect of it. Both are true. So this is a charming story of Satyakama found in the Chandogya Upanishad. And each revelation worthy of deep meditation. And the art of meditation will be to take us from this manifest aspect to the unmanifest aspect, where we get the real understanding, the real aha moment of pure being. So that's the idea about it. So these four aspects are there, and cleverly put, because a bull has 4 legs. Cows have 4 legs. Now, a little bit about cows themselves. Cows are symbols of divine grace. A kind of machine where you put grass in one end and milk comes out the other. And we have been using this for countless, thousands and thousands of years, and made an art of this husbandry, of keeping these cows as a source of abundance. So it's no surprise that some rivers in India are called go this, go that. Godavari, for example, go cow, because it's something that flows. God's grace is always flowing. Now, if you see how we view evolution, evolution is an unfolding. That is, a continuous flow is happening with obstacles in the way. And when these obstacles are taken off, then the flow continues. And where will it end up? It'll end up in the divine ocean that represents fullness for us. And as we understand, there's nothing more than fullness. You can't take anything away from it. You can't add anything to it. Fullness is fullness. So these ruminations on every aspect, every significance of the story itself is a kind of way of leading us to a position where the breath itself is suspending. Everything is suspended in a sense of awe, incorporating the evolution of the universe. So what is asked of us? To be much more observant. There is nowhere we can look where we will not find Brahman if we have an eye for it. And when we have an eye for it, then what we accepted it was goes into the background. It pales into insignificance. It fades out, and the truth, the reality fades in. And when we start practicing that, it becomes habitual. And when it becomes habitual, then that's all that's required. So you asked me the other day, for example, how do we know when we are enlightened? When there's absolutely no selfishness, when all the sense of self, any sense of an embodied entity goes away, when this fullness is realized as an actuality, then it is only that we're living out the fruits of our previous karma and entering into this realm of freedom. So we finish off there on these 4 approaches. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.